So I would like to introduce Jay Greer, talking about engaging key space exploration stakeholders in ethics, inclusion, and decolonization. So I'll get my timer going. And Jay has already started sharing the screen, so we should be good.
Thanks, Sandlin. Can you see the slides and can you see me? And is it all looking good? Do I sound good? Awesome. Got a nod from Sandlin. Okay. Thank you very much. It's great it's a huge honor to lead off this session. And it's also, again, a huge honor to be the chair of the Survey EDIA focus group. And I'm thrilled that this session exists, at the incredible support and participation in this session and throughout the week in EDIA issues. And another huge thanks to Greg, his team, and to everyone who's been involved in the focus group and in organizing this meeting for this incredible focus. I really appreciate it. And I think it's going to benefit our profession immensely, not to mention the whole world. Not that I want to change the world, but I do. And that's a little bit a part about what I'm talking about. In order to, obviously, we want to change some things in our profession. There's going to be a number of people in our audience right now who are experts at this far better than myself, as well as people who are new to these ideas. So part of what
I don't mean to interrupt you, but could you make your slides bigger so everyone can see?
Oh, sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandlin. Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Did that work? Okay, I apologize. I can't, anyway, thanks. Yeah, so some of what I'm talking about is to folks who already know what they're doing, and some of what I'm talking about is to folks who are going to be coming at this new. But what we all need to do is try to figure out how to have these conversations with anybody who would be identified as a key exploration stakeholder. And in a lot of ways, that's everyone, but in particular, the people who have the position, the power to make the kinds of decisions to have the change that we'd like to have. So let's see here. I love this countdown behind Sandlin. This is awesome. Okay, so presentation, what's all this then? In the style of Bill Bottke there. What's all this then? As ethical scientists, our value structure intrinsically includes ideas of equity, inclusion, and diversity, because that's a lot of the ways that we do good science. The nature of how we process data, how we take data, how we attempt to get bias out of our data in the first place. And we, of course, have moral imperatives for compassion and just human interaction. This is a part of our mindsets. We need to build these things into our personal research and our work lives at small scales, as well as work to influence space policy at larger scales. And to do that, part of that is addressing stakeholders and how we go about doing that. So strategy 0 is just don't assume everybody understands how we're using the terms, right? Any of the terms that we use and we think are very basic in terms of doing EDIA are things that other people have encountered in other contexts, such as ethics, morals, or privilege. I had to look up these things when I was first starting to do, science ethics, because I had never taken an ethics course. So becoming, learning about ethics is, finding the definition for ethics, which of course is defined with the word morals in it. And then you've got to look up morals in the way the dictionary works. Privilege is not an insult. It's a fact based on a position, the way society is currently structured. And a lot of people who are referred to as having privilege, the first time they hear this, they take it as an insult, instead of recognizing that the society has been structured to favor them and that this is just a fact. And that from privilege and from unconscious bias can grow acts of discrimination, which can build into systemic racism. And that is a sliding scale that we've seen much of. So how do we start to bring some of these values into our personal research lives? So the strategy number 1, and I apologize for my word heavy slides, but I actually need to see these today to keep myself on track. Shame and guilt are toxic and unproductive, so remove them from the discourse. Part of dealing with folks who have never, of course, grappled with some of these ideas before is, of course, a concept called white fragility, which absolutely exists, which is the first time that, in particular, white people, or perhaps it's people who are not disabled, or people who are cis or have heteronormative life, that they have not had to grapple with certain aspects of society or culture that in fact have been privileging them because they're privileged and haven't seen it. The point at which they realize that they have been participating in systems that have been hurting other people, of course they feel bad about it because they want to be nice people, they're good people, and they feel bad about it. But the fact is that is completely unproductive. And the amount of time that we, and particularly I'll say white people, we as white people spend in this guilt area or shame area, we're still centering ourselves. And we just have to stop that and move beyond that. So when you're having conversations with people, tell them to just shelve that. It's not going to go anywhere. And to take change, we have to decenter ourselves and look forward at the people who are actually need to benefit from systemic change. So that's one thing to take off. So instead, challenge them to accept responsibility for what they are and are not going to do after they realize how their participation in systemic oppression has affected others. So the major barrier is that often the people in the best position to enact change, at least in the way we have things structured now, are the people who are least likely to see the need for it because the society has privileged them. And since they've always been the first ones in line, they don't, when things start to change to be equitable, they see that as things being taken away from them because they've never had to wait for their place in line before. Things haven't been fair. So everyone, and making people understand that this means everyone has equal opportunities, resources, and rights, and what that can look like. So strategy number 2 is simply responsibility, encouraging people to take responsibility for their own actions and requiring responsibility from the people who may be above them in terms of power structure or management structures. Strategy number 3 for our community is really learning. We're smart, we can research topics, and we can learn. And by research, I don't mean reinventing the wheel. What we need to do already exists. People have researched it, people have written it, particularly in terms of race, the Black community and other communities, the disabled community. They know what needs to change. It's out there. The research we need to do is just go get it, bring it in, put it in here, and then put it into action. So we can learn these things. These are entire fields of expertise unto themselves. So we should understand that just because we're scientists doesn't mean that we instantly know these things. It just pops into our head, kind of like being born from the brain there. But other things we need to do is learn best practices in science communication, learn who our representatives are, not just in terms of politically, but in terms of within our societies and structures, and who can advocate, who can't, who do we need to approach. And seek out any professional development. We always assume we have all the training that we need. We don't. Get training and encourage others to get that training as well. And in particular, so this is just a basic list of steps, and I've got less than 3 minutes. So just looking at some of the things we can do in our personal research environment, listening to the people, the marginalized groups in our subdiscipline who are in that environment and boosting their voices up, continually trying to decenter ourselves and put those people in the center. Another one is positioning ourselves as experts, and that can be hard when you're an early career person, but to the outside world, you are an absolute expert in astronomy and planetary science, and you know everything, and you can claim that and help the outside world. Engaging in conversations, join and initiate conversations yourself. Considering, the screen has turned red. Consider how algorithms, models, searches, and predictions are built on biased principles, how our very data collection itself is built on biased principles. And if you've used Google for any kind of searches in EDIA, you know how biased that is. Amplify voices of, as I said before, of people who've been overlooked, and hold our established institutions accountable. So I'm gonna skip that slide and go to this one. So just people say, what do you mean when you say decolonization? And the answer is basically, I'm going to quote Lucianne Walkowitz on the bottom here, which is, I can't give you an example of what a decolonized Mars looks like, but it starts by having multidisciplinary conversations about the things that happen here on Earth. And the fact is that we don't exactly know what that looks like because we haven't brought the right people to the table to have those conversations. People are telling us, in particular, Indigenous communities are telling us what that is and what that looks like. Colonization has at its heart the idea that a planet belongs to us. And any changes, going there will make changes. Can we trust humanity to respect other worlds when we have not respected Earth? And so here are some particular policy basics, but I'm going to skip over these two, the list that I can certainly share with others about what that might look like. And I'm just going to skip straight to my end slide, which is me, so that if you can want to ask me further questions about some of this or the specific policy issues or where we're going, I would love to have these conversations, although there's half of the people on this list right now know more about this than I do. And I see one of the hands up, which is Veracis Fernandez, who I want to say immediately was part of, and I think actually an organizer, the last ELS, what was it, 2 or 3 ELSs ago in Manchester, had the Moon as a Contact Zone workshop. And I learned a ton there. So I wanted to call Vera out on that because it was fantastic. And 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm done.
Thank you, Jay.